What's up, guys? Today we're going to talk about black and white conversion in Capture One. Actually, this is the first of 3 videos on this topic, and we are going to start with a beautiful landscape image from the United States. And before we begin, I want to tell you a little bit about the metadata of this photo. So actually it has been taken on the XH1, which is sitting right there, and I'm still using it. It's still my main camera. And with the XF16 f1.4 lens, which is the lens that I'm using to film this video right now. And it has been shot at f8, ISO 400 and 1/240th of a second. Now, to be honest, this is a pretty beautiful color image. And what you're seeing here is the unedited raw file. So as you can see, if we switch on the before and after view, there is nothing to see because we still have not edited this photo at all. And this is what we're gonna do together in this video. Now, before we start the actual black and white conversion, let's talk about the image and the way that we want the image to look in black and white. Because black and white is way more than desaturating an image. Now, to be honest, I want to improve the sky, and I want this photo to be really dramatic. And when we talk about black and white, all we have is black and white. So we cannot have intense colors, but we can have a dark black and a bright white. And that's what I want to exaggerate in the sky. So we want the blue parts to be really dark and the white parts, the clouds, to be pretty bright. We also want to do something about the road, because the road takes up a lot of space in the foreground, but actually, I mean, there is nothing to see. So the road is it's just there, but it doesn't contribute a lot to the image. Now, if we just desaturate the image, and let me do that real quick, you can see that the beautiful yellow markings on the road, they almost blend together with the street. So this is also something that we need to fix in our black and white conversion. Now, I never do black and white this way. I always do it with the black and white tool. So we're going to enable black and white and disable my hand drawings for a moment. Now, as you can see, if we just reset all of these sliders, then I can mix how much of which color I want to blend into my final black and white image. Now, if we want to darken the sky, we just need to think of the color the sky had in our color image. So as you can see, it's blue and cyan. So if we reduce cyan and blue, we get a much darker sky, and we also get darker mountains because they include quite some blue in the color version as well. So that's pretty good for a first few clicks, right? But there's more. And I think the greatest impression, the greatest improvement from this point would be fixing the street. So let's create a new layer for this. And as you can see, I have also included the layer tool in this black and white workspace that I have created. I'm going to create a new adjustment layer, select a brush tool and create, well, pretty hard edge and high opacity. Now let's reduce the size and just brush in all the areas that belong to the street. Now you might wonder why I'm doing this. And you know there are very many ways to mask an area in Capture One. You can mask a color. You can mask a linear gradient, which we're also going to do later. You can mask a circular area. You can mask a luma range, so bright areas or dark areas. But the problem is the road cannot be masked with any of these tools. So I need to draw a mask by hand. And I'm doing this with my pencil on my Wacom tablet. So just pretty easy task. And we don't have to be too precise for that in our first run. We're gonna fix everything later on once we have a rough mask. So we're gonna erase the parts that I don't want. By the way, you can show and hide the mask by pressing M on your keyboard, unless you change the default keyboard shortcuts, which you shouldn't do. You may add your own keyboard shortcuts, but don't change the default settings. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it. So as you can see, we have a pretty good mask. Now let's hide the mask and darken the road. Now, before we talk about details, you can now see why I'm doing this. I mean, the focus is now much less pulled towards the road. It's more on the markings on the road, and it's, you know, the viewer is drawn into the image much more than before. But we still have some problems, especially down here. Now you see these areas, they really don't look good. And there is a very simple solution for that. I'm going to right-click the adjustment layer for the road, and I'm going to use the Refine Mask tool. And you see, with the default value of 19, it's looking so much more realistic than before. Now, again, I might need to add some corrections to this mask, but overall it's looking really good already. So usually I would take a little more time to draw this mask, but for the sake of this video, I would say we're maybe 80–90% done. So I'm not gonna bother you with the fine-tuning of this mask, because you see the effect that this has on the final image, and I think it's looking pretty good already. Now, one more thing I would like to do is fix the sky, or rather improve the sky. So I'm gonna create another adjustment layer, use the gradient tool to mask the sky, and I'm gonna increase contrast, lower the exposure, and I'm also gonna add some clarity. Where is it? Clarity, up here. And just to show you what this did to the image, I'm gonna disable the sky and enable it again, so you can see what kind of effect this had on our image. Now that's pretty much everything that I would want to do for this photo. And you know, every picture is different, and you can do so much with little effort. And you might also lose yourself in details which really don't matter. So concentrate on the flaws of an image, try to improve it, and try to become a better photographer by doing that. And also keep in mind, what do you want your audience to feel? How do you want this image to look like? And this is your decision. It's not the decision of the camera or the raw converter or anything else. It's your decision, and you need to do everything that it needs to accomplish that. And for that reason, it's really important that you learn to master the tools that you use, which is your camera, your lenses, but it's definitely also your raw converter. So whatever you use, even if you use Lightroom, which you probably don't, but whatever you use, learn to use it and learn to maximize it and learn to use it to accomplish your vision. And your vision may also come to life during experimentation. That's totally fine. So you don't have to have a vision before you start. You might, but you don't have to. And to finish this photo, I want to show you again the differences between an image that you see on the left, which has just been desaturated, and the image that we have just edited together. And this is not to show you which one is better, but it's there to show you how much possibilities you have, even in black and white photography. I hope you enjoyed this first little session. We're going to do a second one right now. Let's not waste any time and start with the second image right away. We are inside of an ice cave in Iceland. And this photo has also been taken with my Fuji X-H1. This time I have been using the XF10-24 lens at 10mm, which is the widest setting, f5, 1/60th of a second at ISO 2500. So it's pretty dark in there, but it's still very, very impressive. And I mean, the photo itself is impressive as well. And you might also wonder, why would you want to take such a beautiful color image and make it black and white? Well, why not? Just because this video is about black and white, we're gonna do it. So again, we have to talk about this image before we start. And I want to discuss the flaws and the opportunities that this image has. Now for this reason, we're going to use our pen tool and draw in this photo. Now what I really like about this scene is, and we're going to zoom in a little bit, is the way that this flowing and moving water has been frozen while moving. I mean, that's the way it looks, okay? I don't know how this really happens, but it's so impressive. So I really enjoy this part a lot, and also down here. And we have a dark corner on the upper right, and we have a bright corner on the left side. And I don't like this bright corner at all. It attracts too much attention, and we need to fix that. Also, in the upper left part of the image, the contrast seems to be much lower than in the center. And this is also something that I want to fix. Now, enough talk, let's get started. So we're going to enable our black and white edit. And as you already saw, this image has just blue. There is no red. There is no yellow, there is no green certainly. So whatever slider we use, there's not gonna be a lot of changes. So green has almost no effect. Cyan a little bit. Blue, nothing. Magenta, nothing. So we cannot work with the black and white mixer at all. There is no effect whatsoever. So we're gonna create a new layer, draw a gradient from the lower left, and darken the corner down there. Add some contrast, and I'm also gonna pull down the shadows. Let me just adjust the position real quick. And as you can see, when I turn off that layer, there is just so much focus in this corner, but the most beautiful part of the image is in the center. So this is really, really important. Next, we're gonna fix the contrast on the upper left. And for that, we're gonna create another layer, create a gradient, and increase contrast. Now, as you can see, the image now looks much more uniform and the diagonal flow of the water is much more emphasized. So this is just amazing. I mean, 2 little adjustment layers. This doesn't even have to do a lot with black and white, to be honest. This is something that you would need to do even if you left this photo in color. So as you can see, if I turn off the black and white conversion, and I'm going to show you the differences with these 2 adjustment layers, it's pretty intense, right? So this has been improving the photo quite a lot. Let's go back to black and white. And to finish this photo, let's play a little bit with the curve tool. The curve tool gives you great control over contrast. Now, you have to be careful not to edit one of the adjustment layers, but to edit the background layer, at least in this case. So what I want to do is play around and create a little matte effect. So I don't want pure black and pure white. So I want to soften the tones a little bit. And for this reason, we're going to pull up the black point and we're going to pull down the white point. And I'm going to keep dragging it down until I see that it's too much. You see, this is too much. We don't want that. But I don't want this clean, white, digital look for my black and white photos. I want them a little more faded, you know? And I think that's pretty good. And before we finish this photo, something else pops up in my mind. And that's clarity. Clarity is a kind of contrast that doesn't blow up highlights and doesn't pull down the shadows too much. So let's play around with clarity as well, still on the background layer. And as you can see that even if I go to a really high value like 80 or 100, it's not too much. It's not too much. And it looks just beautiful. It makes me almost want to touch the screen and feel the ice in this cave. So that's a look that I really, really like. And to finish this up, let's compare this photo to a desaturated version, which is also black and white, but as I already told you, it's not the same. So let's do it. Let's clone this variant and reset the image and desaturate it. Remove the saturation and as you can see, I mean, it's a totally different story. So as you can see, there are so many opportunities in black and white. It's probably more creative than most people think. And it's the same for me. I mean, I really need to do more black and white photography, and to be more precise, black and white raw conversion, because it's just a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed this video. I appreciate all your comments. I appreciate you hitting the thumbs up button. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And just a quick reminder, there is still a 10% discount code on all Capture One licenses. Check the video description for more information. See you soon and goodbye.